friends! So today's story is The Hunchback of Notre Dame. This book has a lot more words, so be a little bit more patient with me. I've got a lot more reading to do than the other books. Every day in Paris, a hunchback by the name of Quasimodo rings the bell. He lives alone, but one day decides to venture out to a festival where he meets a beautiful Romani woman named Esmeralda. Unfortunately, Quasimodo's master wants to get rid of all of the Romani, and he sentenced Esmeralda to die. It's up to Quasimodo to save her. Can he do it? Let's find out. So, in the beginning, our nice picture is of Notre Dame, and it has the bell towers where Quasimodo lives. And let's see, here is our title page, The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Again, it is by Disney Press, so they own the copyrights, the story, the book, the pictures, all of it. So let's get started. Once upon a time, there was a traveling Romani family who had slipped into Paris only to be met at the docks by the evil judge Claude Frollo and his soldiers. Frollo despised Romani, for to him they represented all that was bad in the world. As the family was taken prisoner, Frollo noticed the Romani woman clutching a bundle. He commanded his soldiers to seize what he thought were stolen goods. The woman ran out seeking sanctuary, but instead she fell upon the stone steps and died. As Frollo looked upon the dead woman, the parcel she'd been holding began to cry. It wasn't stolen goods after all. It was a baby. Frollo gasped when he saw the poor, misshapen little infant within. He was about to drop him into the dark opening of a well when he heard the voice of Archdeacon stop him. The Archdeacon told him to adopt the infant and raise him as his own. Frollo agreed, but only if the child could live in the bell tower of Notre Dame. Frollo named the baby Quasimodo. 20 years passed, and Quasimodo became a sweet young man who lived alone in the bell tower. It was his job to ring the magnificent bells at Notre Dame and nothing more. Although Quasimodo lived alone, he had 3 faithful companions, Hugo, Victor, and Laverne. To everyone, these creatures were merely stone gargoyles, but to the sweet-tempered Quasimodo, they were living, talking friends. Today, the trio was looking toward their annual ritual of watching the Festival of Fools, but Quasimodo had never been to the festival before. "Did you ever think of going to the festival?" Laverne asked him. "That's all I think about," he told her. "But I'd never fit in out there. My master, Frollo, has told me I'm not normal." The gargoyles insisted he attend the festival until finally Quasimodo agreed. Down in the square, the Romani woman named Esmeralda played the tambourine. Her mischievous goat, Jolly, danced to the music. Passerbyers dropped coins in a hat. In the crowd was the handsome Phoebes, Frollo's new captain of the guard, who had just arrived in the city. When another Romani signaled that trouble was near, Jolly grabbed the hat in his teeth, accidentally spilling the coins onto the ground. As Esmeralda rushed to gather the money, 2 soldiers approached. They claimed she had stolen the coins, but Phoebes knew the truth. He interfered and helped her get away. Meanwhile, Quasimodo attended the festival for the first time. Disguised in a hooded robe, he climbed down the side of the cathedral. The topsy-turvy day parade was in full swing, where everywhere people dressed in funny costumes, musicians played, and peasants danced in the square. Quasimodo watched the performances. One was a dance by Esmeralda. The judge could not take his eyes off her. Neither could Quasimodo or Phoebes, who had also attended. Esmeralda winked at Quasimodo as she passed by, making him blush. When she finished dancing, it was time to announce the crowning of the King of Fools. As people in grotesque masks scrambled onto the platform, Esmeralda saw Quasimodo and pulled him on to stage. She thought he was wearing a mask. Esmeralda went down the line of contenders for the King of Fools, removing each one's disguise, but when she reached Quasimodo, she realized he wasn't wearing a mask. The crowd gasped. Quasimodo was paraded through the streets as the ugliest king of fools ever. But soon the crowd got out of hand and began to throw fruit and taunt him. Frollo did nothing, even though the frightened Quasimodo was tied to the pillory and was pleading for his help. Esmeralda came to Quasimodo's rescue, enraging Frollo, who had ordered she be arrested. In a mad chase, she dodged the soldiers, and soon she and Jolly slipped into the cathedral. Phoebes followed, but instead of arresting her, he told Frollo that Esmeralda had claimed sanctuary. The archdeacon came to her side, ensuring no harm would come to her within the cathedral walls. Quasimodo watched from his tower as Esmeralda explored the cathedral. Esmeralda knew that Quasimodo was watching her. She followed him to his room, wanting to apologize for what had happened at the festival. She was very kind to him. Quasimodo wanted to thank her. He offered Esmeralda a surprising way to escape the cathedral undetected by jumping. When they reached the bottom, Esmeralda kissed him and gave him a woven necklace. "It will help you find the Court of Miracles," she said. The Court of Miracles was rumored a Romani hideout that Frollo wanted to destroy. When Quasimodo reached the bell tower again, he met Phoebes, who was searching for Esmeralda. He asked Quasimodo to tell her he meant her no harm. After Phoebes left, the gargoyles revealed that they thought Esmeralda was in love with Quasimodo. Although Quasimodo told them they were wrong, he secretly hoped it might be true. When Frollo learned that Esmeralda had escaped from Notre Dame, he ordered his soldiers to search every building in Paris. Maddened by his unsuccessful search, Frollo even set fire to a home of a miller, certain that the family had sheltered Romani. At that moment, Phoebes realized how truly evil Frollo was. The brave captain entered the burning mill and rescued the family. Frollo immediately sentenced him to death. As Phoebes was about to be executed, Esmeralda frightened Frollo's house and escaped. Phoebes escaped. As he fled, Phoebes was wounded by an arrow and fell into the river. Though Frollo left him for dead, Esmeralda rescued him and brought him back to Notre Dame. At first, Quasimodo thought that Esmeralda's visit meant she did have feelings for him. Then he realized that she had come only as a friend, wanting him to hide Phoebes. Quasimodo's heart broke. As Frollo's carriage unexpectedly pulled up outside, Esmeralda turned to Quasimodo and said, "Promise me you won't let anything happen to him." Then she fled. Frollo went to Quasimodo's room and told him that soon Esmeralda would be caught and it wouldn't bother him anymore. As soon as Frollo left, Phoebes asked Quasimodo to help him find Esmeralda, but Quasimodo, hurt, confused, and afraid of disobeying Frollo again, wasn't sure what to do. Finally, thinking of his friendship with Esmeralda, Quasimodo decided to help Phoebes find her and save her from Frollo's men. He showed Phoebes the necklace that Esmeralda had given him. Together, they used it to find a hidden staircase. But little did Phoebes and Quasimodo know. They were being followed by a band of Romani in disguise. The Romani were worried they wanted to harm them. The Romani caught Phoebes and Quasimodo and took them to a scaffold in the center of their hideout. They were about to be hanged, but then Esmeralda burst through the crowd. "Stop!" she shouted. Esmeralda explained that Phoebes and Quasimodo were friends. She untied them. Then Phoebes turned to the crowd. "We came to warn you. Frollo's coming," he said. You took a terrible risk coming here," Esmeralda told Phoebes. "It may not exactly show, but we're grateful." Don't thank me, protested Phoebes. Thank Quasimodo. Without his help, I would never have found my way here. Nor would I, cried Frollo, who had arrived triumphantly with an army of soldiers. He strode up to where Phoebes, Esmeralda, and Quasimodo stood as frightened Romani families tried to escape. He led me to you, my dear, Frollo sneered at Esmeralda. Then you must have tricked him, Esmeralda said. By nightfall, a platform had been built in the square. Frollo appeared as two guards tied Esmeralda to the stake. He announced, "The prisoner has been found guilty of the crime of witchcraft. The sentence, death." Nearby, Phoebes was imprisoned in a cage surrounded by guards. He was helpless as Frollo approached Esmeralda. Quasimodo was horrified. His friend had been captured, and it was all because of him. Frollo ordered his charge to be chained up in the bell tower. Quasimodo tugged at his chains with all his might. Soon, the pillars that held him crumbled, and he was free. Quickly, Quasimodo swung down the hall of the cathedral and landed on the platform in the square, where he rescued Esmeralda. Then he carried Esmeralda back up the face of Notre Dame as the crowd watched in amazement. Unharmed, Quasimodo hoisted himself onto the balcony and raised the unconscious Esmeralda above his head. "Sanctuary," he called. "Sanctuary! Sanctuary!" "Seize the cathedral!" screamed Frollo, even though he had no authority over the church. Inside the bell tower, Quasimodo placed Esmeralda on a bed of straw. He walked out onto the balcony and saw Frollo's soldiers surrounding the cathedral. Quasimodo heaved wood and pieces of masonry at them. Then he picked up a beam and hurled it over the side of the balcony. He watched as it crashed below onto Frollo's carriage. Down below, Phoebes had set himself free. He turned the crowd against Frollo, and together they protected the cathedral. Thanks to his gargoyle friends, Quasimodo managed to stop the troops from attacking his tower. Although the soldiers were defeated, Frollo was not. He watched as Quasimodo wept over Esmeralda's limp body. Then he raised a dagger to Quasimodo's head. Luckily, Quasimodo saw Frollo's shadow on the wall, and he knocked his attacker to the floor. "All my life, you have told me that the world is a dark and cruel place," said Quasimodo as he towered over Frollo. "But now I see the only thing dark and cruel about it is you." Just then, a voice called out softly, "Quasimodo." It was Esmeralda. Quasimodo ran to her side and picked her up as Frollo, sword drawn, pursued them out onto the balcony. Quasimodo swung around the edge of the balcony, but Frollo continued to attack, cutting Quasimodo's wrist. Even still, Quasimodo was brave. He was able to carry Esmeralda to safety. Then he faced Frollo. After a struggle, both Quasimodo and Frollo fell from the balcony. Esmeralda grabbed Quasimodo's hand and kept him from falling further, but Frollo was still close by. It seemed like he was going to strike Esmeralda until the gargoyle he was holding onto cracked, and he plummeted down to the square below. Frollo was finished. As the sun rose, all of the people of Paris worked to remove the traces of Frollo's rampage. When the cathedral doors opened, Esmeralda and Phoebes walked into the square hand in hand. A moment later, at Esmeralda's beckoning, Quasimodo emerged into the sunlight. A little girl walked up to him and gently touched his face. 3 cheers for Quasimodo, someone in the crowd said. In the bell tower high above, Hugo, Victor, and Laverne smiled as they watched the happy scene below. Hip, hip, hooray! Shouted the crowd as they carried Quasimodo through the square. Hip, hip, hooray! Quasimodo was the hero of their city. And that, my friends, is the end of our story. Thank you for tuning in and having patience with me for all of the extra words on these books. Thanks. I will see you next time, my friends. Bye.